The snow was falling softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse suite, turning the New York City skyline into a glittering, frosted masterpiece. But the only thing I could focus on was the icy look in Chloe's eyes. We were supposed to be getting ready for the annual Winter Solstice Gala, the most exclusive New Year's Eve party in the city. I was standing there in my boxers, ironing the shirt of my tuxedo, while Chloe sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone with that bored, detached expression I had come to dread over the last 6 months. "Are you really wearing that watch again, Mike?" she asked, not even looking up, referring to the vintage leather-strap timepiece I'd inherited from my grandfather. "It looks like something you'd find in a pawn-shop bargain bin. Tonight is important. There are going to be actual billionaires there. Can't you at least try not to look like a mechanic for one night?" I gritted my teeth, forcing a calm smile as I slipped the watch onto my wrist. "It keeps good time, Chloe. Besides, I thought you liked the rugged look. That's what you said when we met." She scoffed, a harsh sound that cut through the holiday jazz playing softly in the background. "That was 3 years ago, Mike. Back when I thought your rugged phase was temporary. Back when I thought you had ambition. I didn't think I'd still be dating a guy who comes home smelling like sawdust and motor oil when I'm trying to build a personal brand." That was the narrative Chloe had built in her head. To her, I was Mike, the guy who ran a small repair shop and drove a beat-up 1970 Ford Bronco. She saw the grease under my fingernails and assumed I was barely scraping by. What she didn't bother to understand, because she never asked about my day, only about what I could buy her, was that the repair shop was actually a high-end restoration garage for vintage luxury cars, a passion project I ran for fun. The real money came from my family's commercial real estate empire, of which I was the silent CEO. I owned half the buildings in Tribeca, including the hotel where this gala was being held. But I had kept that hidden. I wanted someone who loved me for me, not for the trust fund. I thought Chloe was that person. I was wrong. The plan for tonight was supposed to be magical. I had a ring in my tuxedo pocket, a custom-designed, flawless 3-carat diamond that cost more than the luxury apartment Chloe was constantly nagging me to rent. I was going to propose at midnight, right as the ball dropped. I was going to reveal who I really was, tell her that the struggle was over, that she would never have to worry about money again. But the universe has a funny way of revealing the truth right before you make the biggest mistake of your life. "I'm going to head down to the lobby bar to meet Stefan," Chloe announced, standing up and smoothing out her red silk dress. It was a dress I paid for, claiming I saved up overtime to buy it. "Stefan? Who's Stefan?" I asked, feigning ignorance, though my stomach tightened. "He's just a guy from that marketing firm I told you about, a senior vice president. He got us the invites to this party, Mike, so try to be nice to him, okay? He's actually going somewhere in life, and he's doing us a huge favor by letting a nobody like you rub shoulders with the elite." She grabbed her clutch, checked her makeup one last time, and walked out of the hotel room without even a backward glance. I waited exactly 2 minutes before following her. I didn't go to the lobby. I went to the security room in the basement. As the owner of the building, I had access to everything. Mr. Sterling, the head of security, a burly guy named Tony, nodded respectfully as I walked in. "Evening, sir. Everything good for the big reveal tonight?" "Change of plans, Tony," I said, my voice dead calm. "Pull up the camera feed for the lobby bar, secluded booth, corner left." And there they were, on the high-definition monitor. Chloe and Stefan. Stefan was a slick-looking guy, probably mid-30s, wearing a flashy suit that was a little too tight and a watch that was definitely a rental. They were sitting close. Too close. I watched, feeling a cold numbness spread through my chest as Stefan reached across the table and took her hand. I turned up the volume on the directional microphone feed. "He's just so embarrassing, Steph," Chloe was saying, sipping her martini. "I literally had to beg him to wear a tux. He looks like a waiter. I promise, as soon as New Year's is over, I'm dumping him. I just needed him to cover the cat-sitting while I go to Aspen with you next week." Stefan laughed, a greasy, arrogant sound. "Don't worry, babe. You stick with me, and you won't have to deal with blue-collar losers anymore. I'm closing a massive deal with Sterling Properties next month. Once I get that promotion, I'm buying you a condo that makes his little apartment look like a closet." I froze. Sterling Properties. My company. Stefan was interviewing for a mid-level management position at my firm. He wasn't a senior vice president. He was a candidate on the shortlist. And he was currently hitting on my girlfriend, promising her money he didn't have from a job he hadn't gotten yet, working for a boss he didn't realize he was cucking. The anger didn't explode. It crystallized. It turned into something sharp and precise. I touched the velvet box in my pocket. The proposal was off. The game, however, was just beginning. "Tony," I said, turning to the security chief, "is the ballroom prepped?" "Yes, sir. The board is expecting your speech at 11:55 p.m. "Good. And make sure Stefan and Chloe have front row seats. I want them to see everything." I took the elevator up to the ballroom, composing myself. When I walked in, the party was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto a crowd of Manhattan's elite. I spotted Chloe and Stefan near the ice sculpture. She was clinging to his arm, laughing at everything he said, glowing in a way she hadn't looked at me in years. I walked up to them, playing the part of the clueless, supportive boyfriend. "Hey, babe," I said, approaching with 2 glasses of cheap champagne I grabbed from a passing tray. "And this must be Stefan. Thanks for the tickets, man. Really appreciate it." Stefan looked me up and down with a sneer that was barely concealed. "Yeah, no problem, buddy. Just try not to spill anything on the guests, all right? Dry cleaning is expensive." He turned his back to me, focusing entirely on Chloe. "So, like I was saying, the CEO of Sterling Properties is a mystery. Nobody's seen him in person, but I have an in. I'm basically a shoo-in for the director role." "Wow, that's amazing, Steph," Chloe cooed, deliberately ignoring me. "Mike, maybe you should go get some food from the buffet. You look hungry." She was dismissing me, sending the help away so the adults could talk. "Actually," I said, checking my vintage watch, "I think I'll stick around. The midnight countdown is starting soon." The lights in the ballroom dimmed. A spotlight hit the center stage. The chatter died down as the MC stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests," the voice boomed over the speakers. "Welcome to the Sterling Enterprises New Year's Gala. We have a special surprise tonight. For the past 5 years, our company has been led by a silent partner, a man who built this empire while remaining in the shadows. Tonight, to ring in the new year, he has decided to finally step forward and share his vision for the future. Please welcome the owner and CEO of Sterling Properties, Mr. Michael Sterling." The applause was polite at first, then confused, then raucous. I stepped away from Chloe and Stefan. "Where are you going?" Chloe hissed, grabbing my arm. "The bathroom is that way, you idiot." I gently removed her hand from my arm, looked her dead in the eye, and smiled. "I'm not going to the bathroom, Chloe. I'm going to work." I walked through the parting crowd, the spotlight following me. I could feel the eyes of the room shifting, the whispers starting. I climbed the stairs to the stage, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. In the front row, I saw them. Chloe's face had gone slack, her mouth hanging open in a perfect O of horror. Stefan looked like he was about to vomit. He had turned a pale, sickly shade of green. "Thank you," I said, my voice echoing through the hall. "Most of you know me as a signature on a contract. Some of you know me as the guy who fixes your classic cars on the weekends because I love engineering. And one of you—" I locked eyes with Chloe, pointing a finger subtly in her direction, "knows me as the unambitious mechanic who wasn't worth sticking around for." A ripple of nervous laughter went through the crowd. They thought it was a joke. Chloe knew it wasn't. "I stood back and watched this year," I continued, leaning into the podium. "I watched people chase status over substance. I watched people lie to get ahead. And it reminded me why I stayed hidden. Because when you have nothing, you see who people really are. And when you have everything, everyone wants to be your friend." I paused, letting the silence hang heavy. "Speaking of substance, I'd like to make a staffing announcement. We were considering a Mr. Stefan Miller for our new regional director position." I saw Stefan flinch physically, shrinking into his ill-fitting suit. "However," I said, my voice turning icy, "I recently learned that Mr. Miller lacks the integrity we require. He seems to have a problem distinguishing between what is his and what belongs to another man. So, Stefan, if you're in the audience, don't bother coming in on Monday. Your application is denied." The gasp from the crowd was audible. All eyes turned to Stefan, who was now trying to shield his face. Chloe was physically distancing herself from him, stepping back as if he were radioactive, looking up at me on stage with a desperate, pleading expression. "Happy New Year, everyone!" I concluded, raising my glass. "May you find someone who loves you when you're driving a Ford, so you know they deserve to ride in the Ferrari." I walked off stage to thunderous applause. I didn't go back to them. I went straight to the VIP exit where my car was waiting. Not the Bronco, but the 1967 Shelby Cobra I kept in the private garage. I was just putting the key in the ignition when I heard the clicking of heels running across the pavement. "Mike, baby, wait!" Chloe came running out into the snow, shivering in her red dress, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. She reached the car door, breathless. "Mike, oh my God, that was amazing! I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? I was just playing along with Stefan because I thought it would help us. You know that, right? I love you. I've always believed in you." I looked at her, really looked at her. In the harsh streetlights, the glamour was gone. I just saw a desperate, climbing woman who had bet on the wrong horse and was trying to switch tickets after the race had finished. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet box. Her eyes widened, sparkling with greed. She thought she had won. She thought the speech was just drama, and she was still getting the prize. "I bought this 3 months ago," I said, opening the box to reveal the massive diamond. she gasped, reaching out for it.
It's beautiful, Mike. Yes, yes, I will.
No, Chloe, I said, snapping the box shut. You won't. I rolled up the window, the glass acting as a final barrier between my new life and my old mistake. I revved the engine, the roar of the Cobra drowning out her screams of protest. Find your own ride home. I hear the subway runs all night. I peeled out of the lot, leaving her standing alone in the snow next to a man who had no job, while I drove into the new year, single, wealthy, and finally, completely free. Do you think he went too far? Or did she deserve it? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories where the good guys win and the toxic ones lose, smash that subscribe button. Welcome to the Sweet Karma Squad.